Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll just wait a couple minutes just for everyone to finish their lunch and just finish joining. Beautiful. Well, look, we might make a start. Again, thank you all for joining and welcome to this webinar. I'm thrilled to have you all joining us today for a deep dive into Amazon's Alexa. My name is Liam Highmore and I am Homeable's resident smart home enthusiast. And joining me is Luke Ray. Welcome, Luke.
Everyone.
Look, just a bit of background on us. We are a Victorian-based smart home provider that specialises in creating smart home solutions exclusively for older Australians and those with disability. We design and install smart home technology because we think it can play a really important role in your clients' overall supports. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, a big welcome. For those who have joined us at a previous webinar, welcome back. These are essentially designed to be fun and informative while hopefully giving you a bit of practical advice on how to actually navigate the unnecessarily complex world of smart home technology for you and your clients. We do have a really exciting agenda for you this afternoon. In a few moments, I'll actually kick off the conversation by giving a bit of an overview of Amazon Alexa and voice assistants more broadly. We'll deep dive into who Alexa is and why they might be a good fit or a bad fit for your clients. Luke's going to go into a little bit more detail around the Alexa devices and their range and discuss some of the accessibility features which you may or may not be aware of. And we'll also share some of our key considerations for OTs when actually recommending Alexa products before finally jumping into some Q&A. As usual, we will send out a short survey at the end, which we'd love and appreciate you filling out. You can let us know if there's a specific technology, disability, or application of smart home technology that you want us to do a bit of a deep dive on in the future. This session will be recorded and a link will be sent out to all those who registered. So feel free to pass this on to a colleague who perhaps couldn't make it today. You can find all of our webinars along with some other great resources on our site. And again, I do encourage you to pop any questions or comments you have in the chat. And thanks to those who actually already asked a question when registering. We will try and sort of monitor these as we go, but we have left some time at the end to cover these off. One more call out, which I hope is obvious. We are in no way affiliated with Amazon. As you'll see today, we plan to take a pretty raw and unbiased view on Alexa and Amazon more broadly. And so all of the opinions that you'll hear today have actually just been formed from our experience installing Alexa devices in the homes of our clients. So look, welcome again, and let's get started. So it wasn't actually too long ago that the concept of a smart home was a distant pipe dream, but it's slowly becoming a reality. And I hope you and a lot of your clients are starting to see this. I think everyone on the call would be familiar with those handy little gadgets known as smart speakers, the ones where you'll continually ask about the weather or what time it is. Despite their flaws, these devices are actually the very things that have sort of transformed many of our clients' lives when used correctly and coupled with the appropriate care provisions after it's actually been delivered. So what is a voice assistant? Well, a voice assistant is a software. It's a software capable of understanding voice commands. So most of your phones have a built-in voice assistant, Siri for those of you who are using iPhones, and Google for Android devices. And usually these assistants actually connect to a bunch of other compatible devices around your home. And this is actually what helps you perform a variety of tasks, which is why they're so important in smart home solutions. Now, nearly all of our smart home solutions that we do design for our clients have some sort of voice assistant included. However, the decision to choose one over the other depends on a number of factors, and most importantly, preference. Now, I want to actually put up a quick poll just to understand what your preference is. Now, if you don't have a preference or you've never used one, you can just select none. For those thinking, what the hell is Bixby and Cortana? They're just essentially other, perhaps lesser known voice assistants. What we usually do in these webinars is we actually compare the data to what we collect from our clients. And as you can see, our clients have an overwhelming preference for Google. And if we take a look at what you have voted, very similar, and no Alexa devices, no Alexa preference, which is funnily enough. So you can sort of see that this battle of the ecosystems has been a very historic battle between a lot of these large tech companies, all wanting a piece of their pie. They all want to own the devices in your home and in your hand. Apple does this by making it very difficult to use their devices with others. iMessage on an iPhone is a very good example of this. And this is no different for smart homes, right? Like, these companies are all fighting to be the chosen voice in the home. You can probably imagine the utopian home of the future being completely integrated with these voice assistants. And the voice assistant we are talking about today is Amazon Alexa. So who is Alexa? Now, Alexa is a virtual assistant originally based on a Polish speech synthesizer named Ewona. Now, Alexa is a software, not a product. And as we'll explain later on, Amazon has a bunch of devices that actually leverage this software, as do thousands of companies around the world, including HomeAble. Now, aside from taking basic commands, Alexa can be used to control parts of your client's home environment. And as we've explained in previous webinars, voice assistants can be one of the most powerful and transformative tools that your clients can actually use to gain independence in the home, particularly for those with limited mobility, dexterity, and vision. Now, before I hand the mic over to you, Luke, to do a bit of a deep dive into some of these products, I want to just quickly draw your attention to this wonderful tree diagram I made on the right. Now, what this essentially says is that it shows the different groups of devices that actually leverage Alexa technology. So on the left, we've got sort of the Fire TV range, which is an Amazon owned range of sort of streaming products. We've got the Echo products, which is probably what you're mostly familiar with. So this is all of your voice activated speakers and hubs. And then on the right, we've got what Alexa terms third-party devices. And this is actually the segment that HomeAble and HomeAble's products fall into, which leverage the Alexa technology, but aren't owned by Amazon, so to speak. Interestingly enough, nearly every solution that we design uses actually a combination of these products, which is why it's so important that we actually take a very integrated approach from the design of the physical solution to the inclusion of care provisions well after it is actually being delivered. This entire range of smart home products is not really good for anyone unless it's actually coupled with education, support, and careful consideration of both the current and the future needs of who it was designed for. Over to you, Luke.
Awesome. Thanks, Liam. All right, everyone. Now let's jump into Alexa's suite of products. So we're going to begin with the Echo devices today. And as you can see on the screen there, there's sort of two main types of device. There's ones with screens, and then there's the speakers without the screen. So we're going to focus on the Echo Dot range, which is the speaker by themselves. So it's essentially Amazon's most popular hub or speaker. The Echo Dot is a device which provides you sort of all of your key features that you've come to love from a smart home speaker. So it allows you to interact with your smart home products, control your environment through your voice. You can ask Alexa to put on some music through streaming services, or you can even ask Alexa to sort of tell you a joke. It can answer a question for you, or even the weather. While this device specifically, the Echo Dot, doesn't have a screen, your client, as I said, will still be able to control all of their smart home appliances through their voice. And essentially on the screen there's a whole different range of the Echo Dot. So you've got all of the generations there. So you've got shapes and sizes to choose on, depending on your client's preferences and their home aesthetic. Now, the cooler, more fancy, older sibling of the Echo Dot is the Echo Show. And as you can see there, these are the devices that we refer to with the screens. They have all of the smart home capability that the Echo Dot has, but some of these models can be fixed to your client's the wall in their home and sort of act as that central hub or point for their smart home solution, which is really handy if they live with other people, such as their family, or they have housemates, or they regularly have like support workers or carers coming in and out of the home. So it's really good to set up in those common areas. So like the kitchen, living room, as an example, as anyone can interact with the screen and change devices and things like that. If you sort of pair it with a doorbell, for example, the face of whoever's at the doorbell, if it's a smart doorbell, will pop up on that screen and you can talk through that centralized hub. But in terms of features of these devices, one of our favorites in the Echo range is the intercom functionality. This essentially just simulates a traditional intercom system, but in a much more convenient and affordable manner. It leverages the device's ability to connect with other Echo devices throughout the house. So, for example, if you have an Echo in your bedroom, one in the kitchen, and one, I don't know, in another bedroom or living room, you can use the intercom feature simply by saying, Alexa, drop in on the living room. And this will open up a two-way conversation with whoever is in that room. We've seen this be really useful for the support networks for virtually all disability types and older adults, because it really enables them, both the carer and the support worker, to perform tasks throughout the day in the home, while the client has the ability to contact them if they're in their bedroom, for example. It also, another great feature is these devices allow the client to have voice activated, hands-free phone calls to their contact list. So you can say, Alexa, I want to call this person. They can do it through the Alexa device. Echo device users are also able to video call each other. So for example, I'm up here in New South Wales and Liam's down there in Melbourne. So if we both had an Echo device set up in our rooms right now, not only would they be going crazy because we're saying, hey, Alexa, all the time, but I could simply, through that device, video call Liam on the spot, even though they're both in different houses. Another great accessibility feature, one that Google doesn't actually have, is the ability to adjust the sensitivity of the microphone to help assist people with soft voices. So the speech rate can be adjusted for your clients who need additional time to hear or process the information coming from an Alexa speaker, which is, we find, really handy. And I guess to sort of surmise this Echo piece, we'll talk about an example of this in practice for a client of ours who is a quadriplegic. And he had a series of Amazon Echo devices set up all around his home. He has virtually full-time care, even throughout the night. And he uses these Alexa devices as the intercom network that we spoke about before. And he's allowed to, it allows him to drop into those other rooms throughout the house all through the night. So if he needs something in the middle of the night, he can just drop in to the bedroom where the carer stays. And interact with them without having to sort of yell across the house, which is really great for him. And it really helps him maintain his privacy too, because they don't always need to be in the room with him. He can have his privacy. When he needs something, he can just drop in to the other room and get their attention. Now we're going to shoot over to the Fire TV range. So this is Amazon's line of digital media players, and they have been designed to deliver easy access to the best streaming services available. And as you can see there, they've kind of got two different products, or two main sets of products. You've got the Fire TV Cube on the left, which is a speaker and a voice activated device that can plug into your TV. And then the one on the right is the Fire TV Stick. So there's a whole range of these, but these ones essentially are the ones we're going to talk about first. And how they work is they plug into the HDMI port at the back of your TV. I guess the key benefit of this device and why we're talking about it today specifically is because it's got inbuilt voice, Alexa voice capability, which allows people to navigate through different apps on the TV and shows by using your voice. The Fire Stick range specifically is quite extensive. So the one there is, I think, the basic version, but there's also different models that sort of support 4K TV or even more compute for, depending on the sort of technology that's currently in your client's home. Shooting over to the Fire Cube on the left there, it's sort of the top end range of these Fire TV devices. It comes with that sort of more processing power, but it also acts as a smart speaker, as you can see there, which means that a client can interact with this sort of in the same way, so using Alexa, but they don't actually have to press the Alexa button on the remote. Because it is a speaker, which it has the inbuilt Alexa, you can talk directly to the speaker and navigate throughout your TV, changing between different apps and different TV shows and things like that. And the reason we sort of really want to focus on this today, and why we think it's really important, is because they do have some really fantastic accessibility features which open up a magnitude of opportunities for your clients interacting with their home entertainment systems. One of these features is the screen magnifier, which allows users to enhance the text size on their screen, which obviously is great for a whole bunch of reasons. Another one is the voice view, which is probably my favorite. What it does is it provides audible feedback of exactly what the remote is hovering over when a user is navigating their TV. Third feature is the Explore Your Remote feature, which enables the name of your Fire TV's remote buttons. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of buttons, and people with sort of sight impacted community, this is really great because after they press a button, it will tell you in an audible notification essentially of what button they've pressed. So not having to remember which button's which is really key for this. And an example of this in practice is one of our clients who has low vision, and he was able to utilize the voice view feature. So essentially when we set this up, his TV would tell him what he has done every time he pressed a button. And then by using this feature, he's now able to navigate through those TV settings. He's able to select the correct channel, adjust the volume of the TV, and is constantly receiving that audible feedback of what he's actually pressed and what he's selecting. So when he makes a mistake, he knows it straight away. And what this has really done for him is previously he didn't really watch a lot of TV because he'd get frustrated because he'd pressed the wrong things. And this has allowed him to more frequently select the correct shows that he wants to watch, and have that sort of enjoyment in the home. A second customer of ours has MS, and he's using the Fire TV with predominantly for the voice activation. So now you can just talk to the TV, open an application, select the TV show that he wants to watch, and watch it really simply, really easily. And these are super simple but super effective devices that can make a massive difference to clients' enjoyment of watching TV in the home. And now we're going to shoot over to the third-party devices, which, as Liam's tree diagram touched on, using the Alexa range, you can also build onto your smart home ecosystem through third-party devices. Currently, there's about 28,000 smart home devices that sort of work with Alexa, that are made by around 4,500 different manufacturers globally, including our products at Homeable. So companies that want to integrate their device with Alexa, they are required to develop something that's called an Alexa skill, which essentially enables their device the ability to interact with Alexa and use voice activation to control them. So really at its simplest, Alexa skills are pretty similar to smart home apps that are essentially created by developers for third-party companies like us at Homeable. So an example of this in practice would be if a client of yours had a Homeable smart plug connected to their bedside lamp, they could simply say, "Hey Alexa, turn on or off the lamp," and it would work seamlessly because of the skill that has sort of been activated in the background. So some skills do work entirely on their own, and others are required to make Alexa interact with something else, such as like Spotify or a home product like Roomba robotic vacuum cleaner. Cool. Next slide. All right. Awesome. So an example that we've got here, which you can see a few photos of there. So this is often an Alexa advertising video, really, which goes through the whole story. So I advise everyone to go and check it out after this. But essentially what the customer in this situation, Josh, he has got a smart finger robot, which enables him to independently use his little lift in the home between levels through Alexa voice activation. So this is a super inexpensive $30 third-party device connected to his Alexa environment. And it provides him heaps of benefits. So you can simply just say, "Hey, I want to go up the lift," and it will lift. And I guess identifying these type of scenarios in the home and providing devices to solve for this type of problem is exactly where we see ourselves fitting in the broader smart home ecosystem for your client, and sort of recommending, like seeing those bigger problems and recommending something that's relatively inexpensive that can create a huge benefit. I'm going to throw back over to Liam now because I think that's enough good cop and positive features for today. So let's hear the bad cop side of things.
Thanks, Luke. So yeah, look, we did promise a raw and unbiased view of Alexa. So it would be remiss of me not to, I guess, include the things that perhaps we don't love as much. And the first of these is that Alexa in Australia is different from Alexa in America. Now, I don't have the answer to this, but there are some really cool accessibility features that they haven't actually made available in Australia for whatever reason. Now, for those of you on the call that are working with the site impacted community, one of these features is the show and tell feature, which you might be aware of, which is essentially something where you can hold objects and items in front of your Echo or Alexa's camera, and it'll actually tell you what you're holding. So whether it be I don't know, if it's a green apple, it'll actually tell you sort of what color it is. Terrible example, I know, but I assume you sort of get the picture. Another one is the frequency of advertisements. Now, this is a common complaint that Alexa will often receive. They frequently display ads on their devices and often chime in with things like, "By the way, you can ask me what the longest word is in the Oxford Dictionary," which most of us, we don't really care. Another one is the app UI. For those of you that have used the app, it's probably, although it's got incredible functionality, for new users, it can make it very difficult to actually tap into these functions. Again, they're known to have sort of very unresponsive support teams, particularly from an accessibility standpoint, which is disappointing from us. And again, anyone with a slight accent will feel this pain, but there's a video just to the right, which I won't actually play, but it's essentially a young Scottish girl yelling at her Alexa, and Alexa just not having an absolute bar of it. Although Alexa can translate words and phrases into more than 50 languages, it often fails to communicate with people with even the slightest of accents. So yeah, a lot of room for improvement. Back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, mate. So yeah, a couple of considerations for all of you OTs to consider when recommending voice activation or Alexa to your clients. So the first consideration is that it needs a strong and stable Wi-Fi connection, as the Alexa won't work without it. And then on top of that, if you have made your whole smart home ecosystem, like if you've built that out, then all of those third-party devices that are hooked into it, they also need a connection. So it becomes really important, that Wi-Fi element, if your client has become dependent on Alexa and these third-party devices to control their home environment. The second is the customizable wake-up words. Sorry, the different compatible wake-up words for Echo devices. So if your client is having trouble saying Alexa, there is a couple of choices to change that wake-up word to, whether it be Amazon, computer, Echo, or Ziggy. They're the 4 other options. And we are hoping that in the future that they do open this up to be more customizable for your clients. The third consideration is when you are setting up a client's app, you can create what's called an Alexa profile for each person in the home, which can be sort of done off, or the individual can be identified off their voice, which is really cool. So when they say, "Hey Alexa," it'll pick up, for example, that would pick up my voice. And if Liam said, "Hey Alexa," it would be able to differentiate who's actually interacting with the device. And what this does, it sort of allows the individuals in the home to get personalized content and recommendations. So a great example of this is if I said, "Hey Alexa, what's on my calendar today?" It would recognize who I am, and it would be able to tell me specifically what's on my calendar, as opposed to a generic, I don't know, like calendar that's set up for the home, which is really cool. Fourth consideration is to avoid the reliance of voice assistants. Now, this is really important because if a client becomes too dependent on the voice activation and the assistance of the Alexa device, then it sort of is a single point of failure in the home. What we suggest is it's coupled with other activation points, either through a smart home app or things like buttons. So definitely something to consider. And the last one is password management. So for the Alexa app, and as well as any third-party apps that sort of hook into it through the skills and things like that, and for those third-party devices, you have to keep in mind that the apps require accounts to be made with passwords. So where does your client keep those, and how do they make sure that they remember who their details for that? So if something goes wrong, they or us can sort of go in there and remediate what's wrong within the app. Awesome. So that actually brings us to the end of the formalities of the webinar. I'm going to open it up to any questions you might have about anything that we've covered today, or on anything about smart home technology more generally. I think there is a couple in the chats. Yeah, so I'm going to put this one to you, Liam. Gemma's asked, how accurate does Alexa interpret artificial voice, e.g. from text-to-speech phone apps or eye gaze? Or from
thanks,
VoiceMaker, actually.
And yeah, look, appreciate you asking this question, Pri. We're hoping to cover it at this point as well. Look, it's varied. In our experience, it is a lot better, and it's usually one of the only alternatives for people with non-standard speech. The only sort of thing with it can often impact the success of this is the little pause time after the wake up word. So for example, when you say okay Google or hey Alexa or whatever, there's usually a little pause time required, which some of the text-to-speech phone apps don't support. And again, with the eye gaze technology, most eye gaze technologies actually have a built-in integration with Alexa and Google, usually native. But again, that just depends on each one specifically. But yeah, I'll feel free to get in contact if you want to discuss this a little bit more.
Awesome. Thanks.
Any more, Luke? I realize we've
just got one other one come through just then from James. Could you please reiterate what you were saying before about the Alexa skills? Do you want to elaborate on what I was talking about there earlier, Liam?
Sure, and thanks, James. So the Alexa skills is essentially the way that third-party devices like Homeable connect in and allow people to use voice. So I'll give you the example of our products. We obviously have smart home devices. We want people to be able to control those through using their voice and through Alexa. And so what we do is Alexa calls it a skill, but it's essentially just an integration with Alexa. And it basically allows us to leverage Alexa technology, but with third-party products. And so you have these with iRobot, Hue, Ring Doorbell, Sonos, like every single one of these people that or groups that interact with Alexa use these skills. It's called something different. It's called Works with Google from the Google side. So that's essentially sort of how that plays out. We can go in a bit more detail in a later session if that's useful.
Awesome. I've just got one more. I know we're virtually on time, but just quickly, Liam, can an Alexa device be used to contact back to base alert systems, say in the instance of a fall?
Short answer, yes, absolutely. Again, it goes back to this skills thing. So it really depends on what alert system you are using and whether they have an integration with Alexa. I know we're at time, but I'll quickly just say that the Alexa are developing something called Alexa Together. Google it if you're interested, but it's essentially a remote caregiving service that helps notify people when there's a fall or something else that is sort of any abnormal behavior. So that's sort of, I don't know, Amazon's attempt at sort of playing in that space. So short answer is yes, it absolutely can, but it really just depends on which specific one. But get in touch if you want any I don't know, recommendations or advice. Cool, Luke.
Awesome. Thanks, Liam. So we've had no other questions come through, so we might wrap it up here. Really hope that you found this webinar informative. Don't forget to check your email for the recording of today's session, which will be sent out shortly. Also on the back, also be on the lookout, for a short survey that we're going to send your way. Each of our webinar topics to date have actually been chosen from that feedback survey. So we do read them and we want to provide you webinar content that is relevant to you. So if there is a specific topic you would like us to explore or a question that you weren't able to ask today, please do let us know through the survey. Thank you again for joining us and we look forward to seeing you again. Cheers.